Here's the summon marure, summoning both a woman who what take magnetic and does it need to and needs to write hers, overseer write herself. She doesn't need approach her voice. Her presence before shiver presence is a space for see our word. It's not about arrogance, and it's certainly not performance. It's more bandies authority clarity as no their performance. Even you can get momentum. Even until as Linus fly woman understand Josico, Losi, mature woman presence easier as a presence we see and the populars afterwards. Testidinen you can then contact arch of her eye contest. Our true authors are generally called by simply as she simply as or powerful wings does need to she need talks from Benin points. Or you can genuinely did speed commonly in iskili or purposely men who are emotions the others there's more actually anginopane tan chows less send local lure tikim low over an eye at cop astral presence bedroom spirit apras Berlin prontoser from Frau on John show on and onting Joseph work as last series roven you can shut oven muse result olening when tospilen can be more hospite up nor be more powerful to associate spiane eye nice up nor on furious sass and be more furious city noise with already you can jam fogula where buying law being seen by matter woman's strength clothes is validance radi as strength kin back for TD or send in not posturing see present sees prelis. And that you can confront precious rare in war of presence this Ramanan with distraction, anxiety, and that and insecurity. So where's not just anti-summon, so when a man and when had drawn to her. Only tension you only test of only stick for me and her strength energy and energy in cell and self-possession. Liars is pleasant boy shupum what will yours lie your belong. Says about yourself. Like you can get the pros, you have no just take in thoughts, silence, then and you speak over when your silence already speaks volumes. You don't need to talk flank and confidence size. When now what confident you say, as not what you say, or quite sure what you say. So in Elysium kind moment seem to wondering how some woman seems in amount the attention of and without even self-aware. This it, and you why won't she? This hour. Again, and you can depend on answer depend on your RNC down and your risk approach rover. Take better ben your and for summon. Botocum aristiru in our wise hour for faculties of Aridian Jew that a challenger the work saw her best in. What of space when most your woman will has presence before warren since Anika a woman was for you a wall roser toser. Stay. When there you can use emotional mastery, Shekomachu woman matsen into channel masse, Shekomuni series, who means say deeply. The Arconikas does say our, it means she majujens merchant no on that no longer control emotional her behaviors, and is proron, and our the task role is powerful of free thinker. A woman who receives attention commands a different no of respond different level of spec and attributes, her actions. Partial over we see emotions being analyzed. Tenit Toman who can defend our experience the woman in coming consumer betem still wanna be made betem. She's apart she run comments pay her peace. Said our can much dance in much a man's integrity with more energy. And after she learned this the radiant silin radia this cell is supply or not. Whether me and Sitan run get emotional stabby one thought immunal stay one a woman was lity one thought feel safe would be this. In this context, bobby context is around you can jet modding converses okay. Is about people feelings one spiral opponents see feeling in see one into blame or insecurities and one met him can jumble from Ron come chiron. Test best pass work connection nation chrome means pass passion raw. Test best non-depend emotional conversion plus cannot balance. Nurture you can not our botting and mounting a performance our upper five. That's just as silence is war. Emotion of Charles emotional version miss feelings. And thus you can get produces the ray is coming from abrasive when where time and when neutral motion and plus we wisdom when without edges in wisdom most broad selection project series. You will hear the philosophy depends spiritual masters emotional matters the it is about power freedom. One hour in your rest Latin power both real power master offering you very risk patin and amor frequency. Go must you not as left or most restrictors. Go most strength the author on rebellion city girls. Both El Toyo on Somanu, war on Jet on Strategy, but really as well, being speakerless. Not someone who constantly this aman be captivate, be her loose at first. But what keeps him hooked? Both keeps him leaning along after us at the way she handles herself proud of his shell when their personal self one race in his herself go her way. Her ability to steiger can get in to steiger owner raven tis omens not maniformal tis it population lottery maturity that size what size even conduct and a mission in that I feel both also no red be has to give you rule operations ni was to bear on simply need be stood and it pure time present and that last here is some ambush messing to a woman and embrace immediately a man who was to a womanly stily common to struggly dress extravagantly already you can ensure or dominate the conversation the way carry hasn't be of omegas ways in teach of price self as the rise and overrise anh is crew can momentum thak it is still confident goner and for ning toss ever needing no shakaman batu monolos winners who stand is short in the award hey ikram can net currents hey no touch you confident Eurogans as not about work proving you on knee is an avoidance so words so did crew in epidation to feel scenes engine you can regi shifts see when a woman like shifts they balance from us but me the cross share chain top one like see surely that non-t and Apples send please even can get moment in. We have taken artificial in on fleet heavy present in ring. She does it female woman to lose our ansi chest in her woman she atros skin. She doesn't can Joe compete and get web browsers. Support tabaras, she collaborates girl free list and UTT shared for net panel from all freedom not insecurely. Both from and you can fully mass. She doesn't know a man to unequally mess her taking or one of woman a man wants to pushes. Also, you game Pukanen also important to recognize had been energy confidence gas been or up profit scroll best not performance gas and not performance resilience and the cell can this tight conspect from lie head on and roaring slide wins so deeply rely at fair for work at size really is sorry walk know who I am when you can display missiles tall men don't need to touch on the scale above of self or worth are the rational in the of self obodarius GR form on time ref car showing you at us when a woman has master shirt and strength for herself also instinctively to shell also steam trust touch love also still she won their chef to be as the astons several you can her full self into suit artisticity rare I live in our wilderness in the rory there's so many people as is rare unless rare so my alice rare low waffen both the woman rural thing says woman from the chasing because there's already no only thing she be been in see separate or worthy better anyway she be left way but she says how share of lie is that the king man of converse is just inspire and no noise in our noise that we supply our of noise that loudest thing in the being the royce and mature women know how to use it. They've outgrown the need to over explain themselves, to fill silences with words, or to overshare their emotions for the sake of being understood. Instead, they have learned the value of restraint, not as a tactic to manipulate, but as a sign of emotional control and self-awareness. When a woman can be fully present without overreacting, when she can respond rather than react, it sends a clear messaging she is anchored. And that calm presence can be both captivating and disarming. You see, most people are addicted to emotional volatility. We're trained by culture to think that constant engagement, fast responses, and dramatic expressions mean that someone cares or is alive. But what actually stands out, what actually commands respect, is the woman who knows how to pause. She knows that not every question requires an answer. Not every conflict requires her energy. And not every emotion needs to be externalized. That's not suppression, it's discipline. And that discipline is magnetic. Men especially notice this. A woman who doesn't let herself be pulled into petty arguments or emotional traps signals maturity. It tells him without a word that she values her peace more than being right, more than being loud, more than being validated in the moment. That kind of inner peace creates safety. And safety isn't boring. It's rare. It's attractive because it allows space for true connection to flourish. The woman who practices restraint also gives her partner the space to step up by not filling every silence or solving every problem immediately. She invites him into leadership, into contribution, into reflection. She doesn't dominate or control. She invites. That invitation, rooted in respect rather than anxiety, creates a different kind of intimacy. One based on trust and freedom, not on pressure and performance. But restraint doesn't mean distance. It doesn't mean coldness. In fact, it means she's in full command of her emotions, not ruled by them. And when she chooses to speak, to open up, or to lean in, it means something, because it's not just another reaction. It's a conscious decision. That's the beauty of mature restraint. It adds weight to her presence and intention to her words. This isn't about silence. It's about power. The kind of power that doesn't need to prove anything to be seen. And in a world that moves fast, where everyone's trying to be louder than the next, the woman who can hold her ground in stillness, who can offer quiet strength in a moment of noise, that woman becomes unforgettable. So the next time you're tempted to fill the space, to answer immediately, to defend your emotions before they've settled, pause. There is profound dignity in choosing presence over reaction. And in that pause, you create the space not only for deeper understanding, but for genuine connection to take root. One of the most profound ways a mature woman keeps a man deeply intrigued, without ever uttering a word, is through the art of self-respect. Not the performative kind that's tied to status or appearance, but the quiet, consistent self-regard that shapes how she walks, how she chooses her relationships, and how she responds to both praise and criticism. It's not loud. It doesn't demand validation, but it is unmistakable. A woman who respects herself sets the emotional tone of every room she enters. She does not beg to be chosen, nor does she compete for attention. Why? Because she already knows her worth. That deep sense of value comes from experience, from years of reflection, disappointment, growth, and healing. And it radiates in the way she holds her boundaries, the way she makes eye contact, the way she knows when to walk away. Not to punish, but to preserve what she has built within herself. This level of self-respect is not about arrogance or ego. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's rooted in humility, the humility to understand that she is responsible for how she allows others to treat her. And so she's careful, intentional. She doesn't tolerate disrespect, not because she wants to teach someone a lesson, but because she has standards for her own peace. That's the kind of woman who naturally draws respect, not because she asks for it, but because she embodies it. Men sense this immediately. A woman who is grounded in self-respect becomes the mirror in which a man sees how he's showing up, not because she judges him, but because her energy demands a certain caliber of presence. She doesn't need him to complete her. She's not desperate for his affection, but she's open, receptive. If he shows up with integrity, that balance between openness and standards creates a powerful dynamic. One where desire isn't based on needness, but on mutual admiration. And let's be honest, it's rare. In a culture that often encourages women to shape shift, to people please, to tolerate in the name of being nice, the woman who respects herself enough to be selective becomes magnetic. She doesn't chase. She doesn't settle. She doesn't confuse attention with affection. And that kind of clarity, unspoken but deeply felt, creates space for something real to develop. Self-respect also shows up in how she treats herself, in her posture, in her habits, in how she prioritizes rest, growth, and joy. Because when a woman tends to her inner world, it shows, it changes the energy around her. People respond differently. Men especially feel the gravity of that self-assurance. It makes them want to rise, not to win her over, but to be worthy of standing beside her. So let this be the takeaway. The deepest attraction begins with the energy you hold when no one is watching. Respect yourself so deeply that silence becomes your filter, boundaries become your language, and peace becomes your presence. Because the most unforgettable women don't demand attention, they simply embody value. There's a certain kind of woman who captivates a man not by what she says, but by how she moves through the world, and perhaps most powerfully, by the way she protects her emotional energy. A mature woman who is unforgettable doesn't give everyone access to her inner world. Not out of fear, not because she's guarded, but because she understands of the value of her peace, and she's learned, often the hard way, that not everyone is entitled to witness her softness, her vulnerability, or her strength. This kind of restraint isn't about being closed off. It's about discernment. She's not withholding out of bitterness. She's preserving. Think about that. Preserving. She knows her emotional energy is a limited resource. And just like you wouldn't pour expensive fume into a broken bottle, she no longer wastes her heart on connections that leak, drain, or take without giving. A woman like this doesn't chase chaos. She doesn't argue to be understood. She's learned the sacred art of pulling back when the energy is off, of walking away quietly when respect is absent. And that silence, that composure, is louder than any reaction. It communicates volumes. It tells a man that she's tuned into her intuition and that no performance, no charm, no false promises can override her internal compass. That's deeply attractive because a woman who protects her energy is a woman who has done the work. She's not living out old wounds or needing someone to validate her. She's centered, grounded, and men feel that. They sense that she's not available for drama. She's not available for inconsistent behavior. She's not available for emotional volatility masked as passion. What she is available for is presence, peace, connection with depth. And that forces a man to meet her on a higher plane or miss out, not because she's trying to manipulate or control, but because she honors herself too much to let her life become a stage for someone else's confusion. You see, it's not just what she says no to, it's the way she says yes. Slowly, intentionally, she gives her time, her affection, and her presence in measured, meaningful ways. That's why when she does to share space with someone, it means something. It carries weight. Impossible. She's not just available, she's invested, but only when the energy is right, when the connection is mutual, and when the relationship respects the balance she's worked so hard to build. And here's the truth. Protecting your energy doesn't make you less feminine. It makes you powerful, because the woman who chooses peace over approval, presence over performance, and purpose over popularity, she becomes unforgettable. She teaches others how to treat her, not with words, but with the boundaries she holds and the peace she refuses to sacrifice. So if you want to keep a man's attention, and not just momentarily, but deeply, enduringly, don't hand over your energy freely, guard it with grace. Let your stillness speak louder than noise. Let your peace become your presence, because when a woman protects her energy, she doesn't need to speak loudly. Her life speaks for her.